There is a woman somewhere in your life right now, maybe at work, maybe someone you see regularly, and she has already shown you more than once that she is interested in you, not in the way you were taught to look for, not with a dramatic gesture or a direct statement, in a quieter way, a way that most men walk right past without registering anything at all. And here's the part that matters. She is not hiding it from you. Her body is doing something that the thinking part of her brain has very little control over. It is happening in real time, in real conversations, in ordinary moments that feel completely unremarkable until you understand what you are actually looking at. The reason you have missed it until now is not that you are unobservant. It is something more specific than that. You were taught to watch for the wrong signals entirely, the loud ones, the obvious ones, and because of that, the real signals, the ones that are far more honest, have been moving right past your awareness for years. By the end of this video, that changes. There are 4 specific body parts that reveal genuine attraction in a woman. Not performative interest, not politeness. Real, involuntary nervous system level interest. And once you know what to look for, you will not be able to unsee it. The reason you have missed these signals until now is not what you probably think it is. Most men assume that if a woman is interested, they will simply know. That attraction announces itself. That there will be a moment, obvious, unmistakable, where everything clicks and the message becomes clear. And when that moment does not come, they conclude that the interest was never there. But that conclusion is almost always wrong. The truth is that female attraction is not designed to announce itself. It was never meant to be loud. What a woman's body does when she feels drawn to someone is not a performance. It is a leak. A quiet, involuntary leak from a nervous system that is responding to someone before her conscious mind has fully processed what it is doing. Behavioral researchers who study nonverbal communication have noted something consistently across decades of observation. The signals that most accurately reflect genuine emotional state are not the ones people are aware they are producing. They are the ones that bypass conscious control entirely. That is the exact category of signal we are talking about today. You were trained by culture, by film, by decades of misunderstanding to watch a woman's words, to listen for what she says she feels, to wait for a compliment, a direct touch, a moment where she drops all ambiguity and tells you plainly. And she almost never does that. Not because she is playing games, because that is not how attraction moves through a woman's body. It moves quietly through posture, through orientation, through tiny physical adjustments she makes without realizing she is making them. That is what this video is going to show you. 4 specific body parts, 4 specific behaviors, each of them rooted in something genuine and involuntary. And the reason most men miss them entirely is exactly what I just described. They are looking somewhere else, waiting for something louder, while the real signal sits right in front of them. Now, the first one is a body part you have almost certainly never thought to watch. The first body part is one you have almost certainly never thought to look at. And once I explain why it matters, you will understand why it is actually the most honest signal on this entire list. We are talking about her feet. Not what she is wearing, not how she is standing in a general sense. Specifically, the direction her feet are pointing during a conversation with you. Here is why this matters. The human foot is governed by a very old part of the brain, a part that developed long before language, long before social etiquette, long before any of the polished behaviors we use to manage how we appear to other people. That part of the brain handles approach and avoidance. It decides constantly whether something in the environment is worth moving toward or worth moving away from. And it communicates that decision through the body's orientation before the conscious mind weighs in. When a woman is genuinely drawn to someone, her feet, even when she is standing perfectly still, even when she is managing a composed, neutral expression, will tend to angle toward that person. Not dramatically, not in a way that reads as obvious. But if you are paying attention, the direction is there. Picture a group setting, a small gathering, a work environment, a social situation where several people are standing and talking. Watch where her feet are aimed when she turns to speak with someone she finds compelling. The upper body might be perfectly neutral. Her expression might be calm and professional. But the foot, the one closer to the floor, the one she is not thinking about at all, tells you something her face has been carefully trained not to show. In a seated setting, this translates differently. If she crosses her ankles and points them toward you while sitting across from you, that is the same signal operating through a different physical constraint. If her knee is directed towards you while her upper body remains composed, that matters too. Of course, context always matters here. If she is seated in a narrow space or standing in a doorway or positioned in a way that naturally restricts her orientation, the signal is less reliable. One position proves nothing. A consistent pattern, especially when her feet return to pointing toward you, even after she has moved away and returned, that is when the signal becomes meaningful. The mistake most men make when they encounter this for the first time is that they start watching too obviously. They look down at her feet in a way that is noticeable. Do not do that. You learn this once, and then you let your peripheral vision handle it. You do not stare. You simply know where to include in your awareness. Feet tell you about direction, where her attention is being pulled. But there is a second body part that tells you something more specific, whether her nervous system has decided you are safe. This one is quieter than the first. You will not see it in loud rooms or group settings, but in a one-on-one conversation, if you know what to look for, it is one of the clearest signals the nervous system produces. We are talking about her wrists, specifically the inner wrist and inner forearm. Take a moment to consider what the inner wrist actually is. The skin there is thin. The veins are visible. It is one of the most physically vulnerable surfaces of the human body, and because of that, exposing it carries a meaning that runs much deeper than most people realize. In mammalian behavior, and humans are mammals, no matter how sophisticated we believe ourselves to be, exposing a vulnerable surface to another individual is a signal of non-threat, of openness. It communicates at a biological level, I am not guarding myself from you. When a woman unconsciously rotates her wrist outward during a conversation, resting her arm on a table with the inner side facing up, gesturing toward you with her palm visible rather than angled away, letting her inner forearm face you while she speaks, she is doing something she almost certainly is not aware of. This is what researchers who study bodies sometimes call a vulnerability display. It is not a decision. It is a nervous system response to a feeling of safety and attraction combined. The two tend to travel together in women. Genuine attraction and genuine ease. One rarely exists without the other. Now you might be thinking, couldn't she just be comfortable? Couldn't this be someone who is naturally relaxed and open with everyone? And sometimes, yes. That is a fair question. But here's the detail that separates general comfort from specific interest. When this signal appears specifically around you, when her wrist exposure increases as you move closer, when it appears during moments of more personal conversation and disappears when the topic becomes neutral or group-focused, that specificity is the signal. Comfort without attraction tends to be consistent. Attraction-linked openness tends to be directed. Before we move to the next signal, there is one additional layer to this that most explanations completely skip over. This signal appears most clearly in quieter environments because loud, crowded, socially demanding situations activate a kind of social armor in most people. In those settings, the wrist tends to pull inward. The posture becomes more guarded, simply as a function of social self-management. When you are alone with her, or in a calm, low-pressure environment, and the inner arm appears without you having done anything to prompt it, that version of the signal is the most reliable. The mistake here is overanalyzing it in the moment and telegraphing that you noticed. You do not respond to it. You simply register it. You let it inform your understanding of where things are. That is all. The first two signals are about direction and safety. The third one is different. It is about something more specific, and honestly more telling. It is about proximity and what her body does when you get physically close. This is the one I want you to pay the most careful attention to because it is the signal most connected to something she genuinely cannot control. And most men who notice it have no idea what they are actually seeing. We are talking about her neck, and more specifically what she does with it. Think about the neck for a moment from a purely biological standpoint. It is where the carotid artery runs. It is the most exposed and least protected part of the body. There is no bone shielding it, no muscle armoring it. In the animal kingdom, exposing the neck to another individual is one of the most significant vulnerability behaviors that exists. It communicates something almost primal. I am not threatened by you. More than that, I am open to you. In humans, this behavior has not disappeared. It has simply become more subtle. When a woman feels genuine attraction towards someone, not polite interest, not professional warmth, but actual physical and emotional pull, her neck becomes a site of involuntary behavior. She may tilt her head slightly to one side, exposing the lateral side of her neck, and hold that position while she listens to you speak. She may lift her chin slightly, elongating the neck rather than tucking it downward. She may reach up and move her hair away from her neck in a gesture that has nothing to do with her hair being in the way. That last one is worth pausing on because it is the one most commonly misread as random. There is a specific version of hair movement that is practical. She moves it because it is physically bothering her, and once moved, it stays moved, and her hand drops and does not return. And then there is a different version, one that is slower, one where the hand lingers slightly at the neck after the hair is already gone, where the motion seems to draw attention to the neck itself rather than simply clearing it. That second version is the one that carries meaning. Related to this is the collarbone. When a woman touches her collarbone during a conversation, not scratching an itch, not adjusting clothing, but a light, almost absent-minded tracing motion while she maintains engagement with you, that is a self-touch behavior. And self-touch in proximity to someone we find attractive is the body's way of managing nervous system activation. It is a soothing behavior, but the reason she needs soothing is the signal. Now, an important qualification. This signal tends to appear after a baseline of comfort has already been established. You will not typically see this in a first interaction when the situation is still being assessed. It emerges once she already feels some degree of ease. So, if you are in an early conversation and you do not see this, that does not mean the interest is absent. It may simply mean the comfort has not arrived yet. Watch for it as the conversation deepens. The mistake most men make here is that they notice something, the hair movement, the neck tilt, and they immediately try to capitalize on it. They lean in too fast. They comment on it. They shift their behavior so noticeably that the moment collapses under the weight of being observed. This signal does not require a response. It requires awareness. Remember what I said at the very beginning? That there is a signal most men not only miss, but actively misread. 3 signals in, and we are getting close to it. But there is one more. And this one is different from all of them, because unlike the others, when you see it, context does not change what it means. The 4th body part is the one I almost did not include. Not because it is rare, but because once you understand it, it changes every conversation you will ever have with a woman you are interested in. We are talking about her eyes. Specifically, a particular sequence of eye contact behavior that almost no one has ever explained to you properly. You already know that eye contact matters. Everyone knows that. But knowing that eye contact matters is not the same as knowing what specific eye contact behavior actually signals. And the difference between the two is enormous. Here's what you need to understand. There are different ways to break eye contact, and each one means something different. When a woman is uncomfortable, when eye contact feels like too much, when she is not interested and the connection is feeling like pressure, she breaks it sideways. The eyes go left or right, away. They are looking for somewhere else to land. That lateral break is an avoidance signal. It is the nervous system moving away from something it is not drawn to. But when a woman breaks eye contact downward and then returns, that is a different signal entirely. That downward break followed by a return is what happens when the nervous system is processing an emotional response it did not fully expect. Researchers studying facial behavior and emotional response have observed this pattern consistently. The downward gaze during a moment of emotional intensity is not avoidance. It is processing. The person is going inward briefly, checking something, and then returning. In the context of attraction, that sequence communicates something specific. You affect her. She felt something. She went briefly inside herself to process it, and then she came back to you. You might be thinking, how do I know the difference between a glance down out of shyness versus what you are describing? And that is exactly the right question to ask. The difference is in the return. Shyness tends to produce an extended absence. The eyes go down or away and take a while to come back, if they come back at all. What we are describing is a brief contained movement downward, less than a second, followed by a deliberate return of eye contact, sometimes accompanied by a slight softening of the expression on the return. Not a smile necessarily, just a quiet change in the face. There is a secondary element here worth mentioning, the slow blink. When a woman blinks slowly while you are speaking, not the rapid blinking of nerves or discomfort, but a long, unhurried blink that almost resembles the kind of blink someone does when they are deeply at ease, that is a signal of full emotional engagement. The eyes are not darting. The attention is not divided. She is entirely present with you, and her nervous system is calm enough in your presence to produce that slow, unhurried rhythm. These 2 behaviors, the downward break and return, and the slow blink, are the hardest of the 4 signals to catch because they happen in fractions of a second. But once you have seen this pattern described clearly, you will begin to recognize it. And when you do, you will understand something about that specific moment in a conversation that you would previously have walked away from without knowing what had just passed between you. This is the signal most men not only miss, but sometimes actively misread as disinterest, because she looks away, because she blinks slowly and quietly, and they interpret that quiet as distance when it is actually the opposite. That is the moment most men walk away from without realizing it. 4 signals, 4 body parts. And if there is one thing I want you to take from all of this, it is that none of them are performances. That is the part that makes them worth understanding. When a woman performs interest, when she decides to signal attraction deliberately, she will use the tools she is aware of. Her words, her smile, a touch she has chosen to make. And those deliberate signals matter, of course, but the signals we covered today are different. They are not chosen, they are not managed. They come from the part of the nervous system that does not ask for permission before it moves, before it orients, before it opens. Feet that angle toward you, a wrist that turns outward, a neck that tilts and holds, eyes that go down and come back. None of these require interpretation in the moment. None of them require a response or a reaction. What they require is simply attention, a calm, unhurried awareness of what is actually happening in the space between two people. And here is the larger truth beneath all four of these signals. Attraction, when it is genuine, is not a mystery. It is a biological event. It moves through the body according to patterns that have existed far longer than any of the social rules we now use to manage them. You were never taught to read those patterns. That is not a failure on your part. It is simply a gap in what most men are ever shown. You have it now. You do not need to walk into a room scanning everyone with clinical detachment. That is not the point. And honestly, it would get in your own way. What changes is quieter than that. You become someone who notices more, who reads a situation with a layer of understanding that was not there before. And that awareness, over time, becomes natural. Which brings me to something I want to ask you directly. Which one of these four signals have you already seen in a woman around you and did not know what it meant until right now? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. If what we covered today gave you something real, consider subscribing. Every video on this channel goes exactly here, into the specific, honest, observable details of female psychology that most people never bother to explain clearly. No hype, no simplification, just the real thing plainly spoken. And in the next video, I am going to show you what happens after she sends these signals. Specifically, what she is waiting for you to do. Why most men freeze at exactly this moment. And what the ones who do not freeze actually do differently. You do not want to miss that one.